Okay, we'd now like to welcome Mr. Bill Gillespie of Bennett Graphics fame on. Bill, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can't see you yet, Bill.
All right. I'm restarting the video now. There you go. Can you see me?
There he is. We can.
Did I scare anybody?
Not yet.
I scared my family, so I could have scared you guys.
Really appreciate you coming on, Bill. So quick introduction to Mr. Bill here. He's been in the print industry for a very long time, and he's sold over $100 million worth of print personally. We asked Bill to come on today to answer some sales questions. We feel that there's some printers out there right now that are up against the wall, and even ourselves in our own environment, we sometimes get sales objections, and it's great to hear from somebody with your experience. So go ahead, introduce yourself, Bill, and then we got some questions we'd like to throw at you.
Well, okay, well, I'm happy to do that. As you said, been in the printing business a really long time. I guess I have, what would it be? I have anniversary number 45 coming up next month. And I don't even want to be 45, let alone be in the printing business 45 years. So anyway, sales just sort of came natural to me. And along the way, had some great success with some mega brands, beverage companies that everybody would recognize the name of, flooring companies that everybody would recognize the name of, sporting goods, alcohol, entertainment brands. I've just been very, very fortunate and have had an opportunity to work on some very elegant products and see how these decision makers made their decisions, and studied the process, paid attention to what motivated them versus what I felt like I needed to be talking about. And that benefited my career. So as you say, over 100 million in commercial print sales. That's a bunch. That's a bunch in commercial print sales. Those orders happen today a few $1,000s at a time. I did have the good fortune of working in the 70s and 80s where the average order could be in the tens of thousands. But anyway, that's a lot of work. And so anyway, find myself at Bennett Graphics now, great company, and actually winding down my time there. And when I received this invitation, I was excited to be able to contribute.
That's great. So one of the things that we're talking a lot about today, Bill, is capabilities, right? So printers getting new equipment, new techniques and all that. But one of the questions that came up is we always tell everybody to sell with samples. Right, so you produce the most amazing samples you can do in your shop, and then take them out and show people what can be done. So one of the things that came up is, well, I have these amazing samples, but nobody wants to see me. I can't get in the door in the current situation. So how can I show off our capabilities as a print shop in the current environment?
Well, every situation is going to be different, and nobody's imagining those struggles. Here's what we do. Here's what's worked well for us. We will actually send the samples and then do virtual sample sharing sessions, just like we're doing today. So if we can get the customer or the prospect to commit to it, we will send them a piece and we'll schedule a call just like this, and we'll be holding the identical thing, and we'll walk them through the story. We'll show them, explain to them exactly what they're seeing and why we think it might matter to them. We also do a fair amount of teasing. We'll mail a card, postcard size, that'll be a representation of a sample that we would love to show them, and we'll invite them to respond and let us know that they would like to see that sample, and then we know we've got an interested party. So we do things along those lines, and with great success, I might add. The customers want to hear new stuff. They do want to hear new stuff. They're as tired of being cooped up as you are of being cooped out. So they definitely want to hear new stuff, and they want to see the work. The story is more important than the sample itself, in my opinion. So if you don't have an opportunity to walk them through what they're looking at and help them understand why it matters and what makes it different from something else, just getting a sample to them isn't going to do the work.
That's great. That's awesome. Some great ideas there. Go ahead, John.
No, thanks for that, Bill, and great to have you on. I want to tap your level of experience. There may be some younger sales personnel on the team, and obviously we want to tap that experience. So obviously one of the, we'll call it the flagship objection being cost. When you can go into a client and said, look you're getting XYZ product, I can do XYZ product, only I can do it a little bit better, and they throw up price as the objection, but you've said, hey, I can meet the same price, and then the client goes stagnant on you. How do you overcome that?
Well, if you bet the price and then they're quiet, obviously it was a price. That's not really what the objection is. And so that's the easiest thing for anybody buying goods and services, and that includes machines. That's the easiest thing for anyone to say is, hey, I can't afford your price. My experience is that's almost never what it really is. There's some failure to connect that has gone on. There's some disconnect between what you're offering and what they feel like they need. In my not so humble opinion, sales reps talk about and think about price a lot more than their clients do. And so it's real easy for a client to shut down a call on a product they're not interested in, or with somebody they're not enjoying being in the company of. There are a lot of things that can motivate a prospect or a buyer to end the meeting, but saying it's cost is the easiest thing for them to reach out for. If I'm that rep and I'm hearing that objection, I may say, all right, if I can make cost not be an issue, is there a reason we can't do business together? I'd like the customer to hear themselves say, no, there isn't any reason. But my experience is they're going to give you whatever the real reason is at that point too. They're going to say, well, it's not just cost, because they know you're going to come back and match at that point. It's not just cost. I don't want to disrupt my workflow and take my machine out and put your machine in, or I'm not sure we'll learn how to run it, and then you can volunteer to teach them. Or I'm not so certain that we have the staff that can do the thing that you're trying to get me to do. Those are things that you can also help them with, and they're probably the real objection as opposed to cost, especially if you've given them the cost they're after and then you're not getting any response. I mean, I'm 100% sure that's not what the objection really was.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for that. So it's really staying with it and building that rapport with the client, and I'd say use the analogy of peeling back the onion, really exposing what the core issue is.
Well, right? It is, and I think that as salespeople, especially these days, we think that sales are going to happen too fast. I think there's undue pressure that we apply to ourselves, and I think management doesn't have an expectation that's exactly right, and so we think things are going to happen faster than maybe they have a right to, especially on a big ticket sale. So I think that what should be the focus in every meeting is, have I moved the needle forward? It's just like dating. It can't go any faster than the slowest person in the relationship. So have I moved things forward? Have I made the argument for my device or for my product or my service more compelling than it was when I came in the room? And I would always leave the room, if possible, with a commitment that you're coming back. Some sort of appointment or agreement that I'm coming back to show a new thing, or I'm coming back to show a new sample, or I'm coming back with new data, or whatever it is that keeps that ball in the air so that you're continuing to have a chance to score points.
So, Bill, you shared with me a bunch of really interesting stories leading up to this event, but one of them that stuck out was how you asked for help from a brand owner on how to become the partner that they want. Would you care sharing that story with us? I think that's important one.
I don't mind. And that was an internationally known soft drink company. I would argue or suggest that there isn't anybody watching or anybody present today that hasn't had one of their beverages at some point in their life. This was a number of years ago, and I found myself in an opportunity to sit in front of one of these guys, and he was a real printing expert. He had graduated from a college with a printing degree. He had worked in a paper company and he had interned in a printing company. And so he had it all figured out. He knew exactly what he needed to do his business. He knew how people should be equipped. And, or at least he felt like he did. He put him in the advantaged position of telling me everything about the business that I was working in. And so you're not going to win an argument with somebody that's that impressed with themselves. You're not going to win. You're not going to win an argument with that person. So you let him go. And so as he explained to me the things that he chose to explain to me, I just stopped and I said, look, I don't get a chance to meet with people that have your level of experience that also sit in a seat like the one you're in very often. If you could design a commercial printing company, which is my business, if you could design a commercial printing company that would be perfect to do business with you along the lines of the things you buy, what would that company look like? And then I just pushed my pad and pencil across the desk to him, and boy, he loved it. He went to work doing it. And so he spent the next 15 or 20 minutes or so outlining exactly what it would be. That's very validating to him, by the way. Gave him a chance to share, and I benefited from it. All the objectives and the things that were in his way that he needed to solve to feel good about a vendor. And so as he finished, I said, "Well, this is great stuff. If I'm able to do, if I go to work on my own company to try to make it more like what you described, is there any chance of me earning a seat at the table?" And he, dropped his head a little bit and he said, "Well, sure. There's a chance. There's a chance." Well, the fast forward is 48 hours later, we wrote our first order, and I did tens of millions of dollars with that company over a very, very, very long time. And the account changed the way I lived and the way my kids will live for the rest of their lives. So anyway, it's just one of a number of episodes like that in my career.
No, I love that story because the willingness to turn your pad over to him and say, "You tell me." I think that's something that I'm not directly in sales anymore, but I have been, and a lot of guys here on the panel are. I think a lot of the audience is in sales every day, and active listening is so important. And if that involves giving them a piece of paper and a pen, I mean, it's no better than that, right?
We can't get better than that. And it's so counterintuitive for salespeople because we're taught what to say, but clients enjoy presentations a lot more when they're making them than they do when you're making them. So you really want them to be explaining to you what's important to them. And I'll share one more thing about that too. We as salespeople think that clients buy when they understand what we're offering, but that's the reverse is true. They buy when we understand what they're needing. That's when they buy. And so if we're focused on what the client needs and they feel understood, they're a lot more likely to write a purchase order.
That's awesome. Thank you. So one of the things that came up was that sometimes there might be a unspoken objective that's hard to draw out. Let's call it the elephant in the room. And the client's not being free. So you've met everything else. You say, "What else?" And there's clearly something outstanding in the way. What do you do in that situation? When do you walk away?
You ask him what it is. I think you over the process, you want the customer to have, in my view and in my business, over the process, you want the customer to hear themselves say, it's okay to go forward on a number of things. You want them to hear themselves say, "Your samples look good." You want them to hear themselves say, "I like you personally. I trust you." You want them to hear themselves say, "I trust your company that you work for. It seems solid." You want them to hear themselves say, "I'm okay with what the cost of your product is." And if they've heard themselves say all of those things, then the next thing is, well, is there any reason why we can't do business? And so that's really the elephant in the room. So wherever you are in that process and you're feeling this unspoken objection, just ask the client, just say, "Hey, how are we doing? Do you like the things I'm sharing? Do they sound relevant to your business? Is there some reason why we can't do business? And if the client says they're not ready, what salespeople tend to do right then is we double down on our product. We double down on our product and how good it is, and our services and the benefits and what this will mean to you. And that's really the opposite of what we should do, in my opinion. What we should be doing is doubling down on what's in the way. And we should ask them to tell us what's causing you to hesitate. Tell me, let me ask you, is there anything I can do right now in this visit to make you more comfortable with what I've presented to you? And it's not a bad thing if they say, no, there's nothing else you can do. You know, then they've heard themselves say, hey, I really just need to quit procrastinating, or I need to ask my boss, or whatever the thing really is. But I think, I don't care what you're selling or to who you're selling. We all have that at some point where we just feel like we've done everything. It's like I say, it's like dating. We feel like the other person ought to just be in love, but they're not yet. You know, you gotta ask, hey, what's in the way? Tell me what I could be doing different, man. Which is really what I did with the soft drink company. I said, well, okay, what could I be doing different? What would make this work for you?
So another thing that came up is in our audience, we have a lot of small business owners, smaller digital print shops, and sales sometimes gets the back burner, right? You get jobs coming in, things are happening, you're wearing different hats. And so sometimes it's hard to build those relationships. I guess this is not so much a question, but just a flat statement about the importance of building those relationships. We see our clients neglecting it and just expecting the phone to ring. So could you give us a little bit of boost of confidence to get on the phone and get back into, calling the print consumers so that we can keep our presses running?
Well, man, that's hard. And I understand it. When I started in the business, printing companies had a tendency to be quite small compared to some that exist today, or certainly some that have existed in just a few years ago. And so we didn't have customer service departments. We didn't have estimating departments. We did our own pricing. We did all of that stuff ourselves. And so it was real easy to get busy and for you to feel productive in a day because you were doing those things that were not going to cause a new order to happen. You were doing those things related to serving your customer. And I'm not suggesting that you don't need to do those things. What I am saying is, as time management, it's just a fact of life that if you don't plant a seed today, there's a plant that's not going to bloom whatever its gestation period is down the road. So somewhere down the road, something's not going to provide food if you didn't plant a seed today. And so somehow every day you got to spend a little bit of energy, a little bit of time selling, smiling and dialing, or revisiting old friendships that you've let go cold. You've got to figure out a way to be in front of customers at some point, some small way every day. And even in a small business, you can put some thought into things. You can, with a cell phone today, you can shoot a video of yourself. This goes back to your first question even. You can shoot a video of yourself going through a sample and why it's cool. And you can put it on a jump drive and you can send it to somebody that won't see you. You can send a little virtual presentation to somebody that, hey, I didn't get a chance to call you today and did this, thought you might get a charge out of it, and you can send it over to them the following day. You just be as creative as you want to be to make sure you get something in front of that client that knows you're touching them. Years ago, 1,000 years ago, when I was just a kid, I worked in a convenience store, and Sunday was my favorite day of the week because we couldn't sell beer on Sundays in Georgia at that time in history. And I'm from the state of Georgia. And so I could run the cash register. Sunday was the only day I could run the cash register because I was underage and I could run the cash register because we didn't sell beer on that day. And so, customer would walk up and they'd lay their bread and their eggs and whatever down. And I just, reach over and hit the keys, And so after the customer left, the boss says, every time you ring up something, I want you to reach over and touch it. I said, what do you mean? He said, just touch the bread, touch the eggs, touch the apple, touch the milk. And I said, well, why? And he says, it associates trust between the customer and that thing you just did with the cash register. And that's a real corny anecdote, and you may not sign up for it, but the point he was making was how valuable the touch was to the customer. And I'm going to say that to you in sales, that if you are trying to sell to me and you let me know you're thinking of me at whatever that interval is, once a week, once a month, every other week, every third day, whatever it is, if you let me know you're thinking of me, you saw something and it made you think of my business and something that we shared in our last exchange, I'm going to take you lots more serious as a prospective vendor for me than I am if you show up once a month with a brand new thing that you're just positive without any research is going to be exactly what I need.
Well, that's incredible, Bill. Really appreciate sharing that. We have one question that's just come in here, and it's what is the best way to get new clients in your opinion? We have tried email blasting, postcards, referrals, phone calls. It's not easy to get customers. So tap in your experience once again.
It is not easy to get customers, but you have to be fair with the process. For me, now I'm in print, I cannot imagine trying to sell print with an email blast because I'm telling everybody email blasts don't work, that they need direct mail. So I can't imagine using that as a tool. I laugh when I get them every day. I get a half a dozen every day, and I just opt out of every one of them because, bless their hearts, that person's not thinking about the business I'm in when they sent me something. So I think that what you have to do is you have to know that it's a dating process. If I said to you, if we were in a bar and I said to you, I want you, and these don't even exist anymore, so that's how dated this anecdote is. If I said, I want you to go over there to that phone booth, doesn't exist. I want you to grab that phone book, doesn't exist. I want you to reach in that book and turn to any page. I want you to find somebody that you'd like to date. I want you to call them on the phone, get a date with them, and see them tonight, and then go home with them. You'd think that was the most ridiculous thing in the world, and it would be. But we do that in sales all the time. We think, well, I mailed a postcard. Why didn't I get a call? I sent an email. Why don't I have an order? It's a process. So what I would tell you to do is look at your existing clients that you are enjoying. They have something in common. Pay attention to what you personally enjoy. Is it gaming? Is it fundraising? Is it nonprofits? What does your portfolio look like? That's the area you're an expert in, whether you know it or not. And then look for others like that, identify others like that in a certain marketplace, and then communicate to them. If it's me, I send I phone call. If I can't get them on the phone, then I send very personal notes. And I may put a sample in the package, say, hey, I did this for brand X, your brand Y. I had an idea you might have the same kind of needs these guys do. And that's personal. And that's going to make a lot more difference to me as a receiver than an email blast or a mass mailed postcard. I'm not saying I don't want a mass mailed postcard because you may show me something unique, but I'm saying to get me to really feel engaged, send me a personal note. So take a minute and send me a personal note. Just say, hey, Bill Gillespie, I know this about you based on what I see on social media or whatever. I know this about you and about your business. And I feel like you might be interested in this machine I've got to sell or this device, this service that I've got that feels to me like it might fit your business. To me, that's the thing that you should do. And then be patient with the process. You're trying to get a first appointment. Then if you get a first appointment, you're trying to get a second appointment, not an order in the first appointment. You're trying to get a second appointment, then a third appointment. And eventually the business is going to start. That's my sermon anyway.
No, that's good. That's excellent. So that was chatted in from Michael Tan. So hopefully that answered your question there, Michael. How about our north panel up there? You got anything for Mr. Bill?
I'm just thinking, Mr. Bill, that we have this current pandemic that we're in the middle of right now, and there's a lot of our clients are definitely feeling the stress of it, the strain of customers being shut down and that sort of thing. What do you suggest in creative ways that they can go out and get added market share currently. We see it as a great opportunity to increase market share. What is there in your mind? What can be done currently to make themselves more applicable to their customers?
Well, I think that difficult times like we're in put every established relationship at risk. I mean, if I'm the guy at that brand, my business is being affected too, and I'm under pressure to find better solutions. I'm under pressure to manage the same activities with less money, or to manage fewer activities and make the revenue that they generate be enough to keep the doors open. I've got a very unique set of problems that I don't always have going on right now. And so I think that puts the potential client in a position where he's possibly available to hear from a wide variety of people that he wouldn't typically entertain visits from. Now that's counterintuitive, but that's been my experience. So what that means to us as salespeople is I think we very aggressively try to reach out to those brands that we want to do business with. And nothing that we've talked about before earlier in this session is set aside by this. You know, you're gonna have to think, all right, I want to talk to brand Y, and I want to get myself added to their portfolio of vendors. What do I know about brand Y? What would I say to brand Y if I was sitting right in front of them? Let me say that in a note. What do I know about brand Y and what they might value? Let me send them a sample like that. Let me give them an example of how I've solved a problem for somebody like them somewhere else. Those are the kinds of things that you want to, in my view, share with that prospect, and understand that it is going to take time. It is a process that you're going through, and you have to be fair with yourself looking at the process and where you are in it. A number of years ago, when I went to work at Bennett Graphics, actually, we had a sales rep that had come from a marketing services company, and now he was selling print. And he, to me, was the perfect profile to be a very successful print sales rep. Unfortunately, he was not. And, you know, I called him into my office and I said, gosh, you're the perfect profile for the guy that ought to be mega successful here. And he says, no. He says, print's very different than what I come from. He says, this is a business all about money. It's all about counting. It's all about this. Well, I explained to him that every business is. He just didn't realize it yet. And then as he went on, he talked about his peers, all the sales reps he was surrounded by. And I said, are you comparing yourself 2 years in to people that have been doing this 25, 30 years? Are you comparing your volume to them? And he says, well, I guess I am. I said, man, you'll go nuts if you do that. You'll go home in a bad mood every single day. You need to be fair with where you are in your career and where you are in your process of selling. And he says, well, what do I measure today then? I said, you measure callbacks. You measure requests for estimates. You measure agreements for appointments. You can't measure dollars of sales. And I say all that to go back to something I said earlier in this. We put too much pressure on the sales process too early in, and consequently, we boot a lot of opportunities. We foul them up for ourselves. Well, let me fast forward on that. That guy is now a multi-million-dollar rep for us. He did slow down and pay attention to the process. He did measure himself by what really was realistic for him to measure himself against it at that point in his career. And it changed his attitude, which his customers saw, and it improved his business. I hope that's a long-winded ramble. I hope that helps you, but you know what makes your product valuable. The pandemic doesn't change that. You know what your customers are trying to accomplish. The pandemic hasn't changed that. It may changed what they have the freedom to do. So it's still the same process. Get in front of them and ask them how you can help. What are you dealing with today, and how can I help you along the lines of my goods and services make that go better for you and your business?
That's excellent. We know as human beings, we have an innate ability to always move ourselves forward. And really, right now is a huge opportunity, isn't there, to move our businesses forward. You might say with more difficult circumstances around, but there's a huge opportunity to cultivate those client relationships like you spoke about, to progress ourselves forward.
I think so. I mean, there are printers that are affected by the pandemic, but only marginally. Our company is one of those. Well, why is that? Why is that? It's not just our mix of work. It's our selling style, in my opinion. It's our manner. It's the way we position ourselves with our clients.
So you think now more than ever, Bill, we need to not fall into the trap of certain entitlement or victim. I'm victim of the COVID. We're meant to be positive, pushing forward, aren't we?
We are, and I have to say this, that the recovery from this is going to feel exactly the same as the pandemic to some, because isn't really what was their problem anyway. You know, and then there are others that are legitimately being influenced by it. Don't misunderstand me, but every time you give yourself an excuse not to be productive, you're well, it's just not good.
Go ahead, say it. Come on, Bill.
I try not to use words that'll embarrass all of us, but anyway, you all know what I'm trying to say. So anyway, anytime we make an excuse, we're not helping our careers, our companies, or our clients. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospect, I know everything sucks right now. I know everything's different right now." But you still got to, you're on the payroll, so you got to do business, and I'm on the payroll, so I got to do business. Is there something we can do together? How can I help you? I think it's just totally fine to ask a question just like that and say, the world today is different than it was back in February. How can I help you with the things you've got to deal with today? Because you know I want to. And I think clients will warm up to that. I think they'll submit to that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bill. It's that half an hour went very fast, actually. We should have scheduled you in for about 2 hours. But I think that there's still some questions out there that if you chat them into us, we'll send them to Bill, or you can, Bill's contact information is on the session list as well.
I'll be happy to answer any of them. Just send them to me and I'll get you answers directly to you.
Extremely helpful and gracious of you, Bill. We appreciate it very much. So with that, big thanks to Mr. Bill Gillespie from Bennett Graphics, and we'll turn it over to the North Scandicor panel for the next session on high value finishing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.